So here we have it once again. Just when you think, maybe, just maybe, the banks who have been involved in absolute criminal activity, fraudulent activity from the housing crisis, would actually get in trouble, some kind of trouble. We find out that the big vampire squid known as Goldman Sachs gets off again with a measly little financial penalty. Rather than stop these banks from ever dabbling in the things that they were involved in that caused this problem, they're allowed to still do these things. Just pay a fine and everything's fine. This is the equivalent of robbing a bank for $5 million and paying maybe $500,000 in a fee or fine for doing this evil deed. Could you imagine? Well, hold on. You're going to say to yourself, wait a minute. Hold on. I robbed a bank for $5 million. $5 million was my profit. I only have to pay $500,000 back of the $5 million from ill-gotten gains I can use towards this fine? Absolutely. I don't get in trouble? No. Don't go to jail? No. Not even an ankle bracelet? No. You're part of the club. And if you're part of the club, that's how we treat our club members. Why the Goldman Sachs settlement is an abomination and insult to all Americans. Zero Hedge, which was actually submitted by Mike Krieger of the Liberty Blitzkrieg blog. The increased use of eminent domain to transfer property to powerful political interests, the ramification of the wars on terror and drugs, and the violation of the property rights of bondholders in the auto bailout case have weakened the tradition of strong adherence to the rule of law in the United States. We believe these factors have contributed to the sharp decline in the rating for the legal system area. To a large degree, the United States has experienced a significant move away from rule of law and toward a highly regulated, politicized, and heavily policed state. From the 2014 Post, new report, the U.S. sharp drop in economic freedom since 2000 driven by decline in rule of law. The American public should be out in the streets by the hundreds of thousands, minimally I'd say, demanding the resignation of President Barack Obama in response to this total sham settlement just announced by the U.S. government with Goldman Sachs. This farce should be seen for what it really is, a gigantic establishment middle finger waving contemptuously in the face of the reliably neutered and long-suffering American public. A criminal financial organization that engaged in billions upon billions in fraud against the Muppet public, which is what Goldman Sachs refers to its clients. It calls them Muppets, is once again getting off with barely a slap on the wrist, and nobody's going to do a thing about it. As I've said for years and years, until the public says enough is enough, nothing is going to change. And I'll one-up that. It will get worse, not just not change. And that's exactly what has been happening over the years. Since the 2008 crisis, things have gotten worse. As I just showed you in my video 6 months ago, here's 19 signs or whatever it was that things are actually worse in America than they were just 6 months ago. I suppose that's simply not going to happen until the next economic downturn, which could emerge in earnest any day now. David Dayen knows as much about this issue as anyone, and he just penned a scathing assessment of this perversion of justice at the New Republic. Here are a few excerpts from his piece, Why the Goldman Sachs Settlement is a $5 billion Sham. This lack of accountability for Wall Street and the perception of a two-tiered justice system gnaws away at Americans' trust. Another word, two-tier justice system. What do you mean? A justice system for the club, which you just saw. We don't get in trouble. We just pay a fine, and we can use the ill-gotten gains to pay the fine. Or the $900 billion TARP fund bailout money that we would definitely got part of to pay those fines. Or the under or backdoor Federal Reserve bailout that a bunch of the banks got off the record. We could use any of that money to pay this fine. And that's our justice system. Versus the people and its justice system, which would be, if you did that, you'd be Bernie Madoff sitting in a prison cell rotting. So Bernie Madoff, Ponzi scheme, $50 billion, pales in comparison to the fraudulent activity that just Goldman Sachs alone has done over the years. Pay a little fine. JP Morgan too, pay a little fine. Bank of America, pay a little fine. Citigroup, pay a little fine. All the big banks, pay a little fine. No court, no jail. Just pay this fine. But you stole billions upon billions upon billions upon billions from the public doing this crime and simultaneously destroying the values of their house or homes. And then you paper over all this crap, or all this bailout, we're going to fix it, they need a bailout. And then what do we do again? Housing prices up. We'll just watch the video the other day where that shows. I think it was a Vision Victory's channel. He's showing here's anything above this line is bubble activity. Up. Take a look at what happened after the housing crisis. Guess what? We are back in not just bubble activity. I think it's an extreme bubble activity. There was levels of this might be a bubble. This is a bubble, and this is an extreme bubble. And from what I saw, housing once again is in an extreme bubble. Why? Because nothing changed since 2008. We've just increased the debt load massively. That's called papering over everything. This has to be dealt with, and it will be dealt with. And as I've said, my opinion would be when Barack Obama is stepping out of office and whoever the next president, which again they've selected, so Hillary, walks into the office or is about to, they'll do what they did when Barack Obama was walking in. George Bush is stepping out. The debt's $9 trillion. Let's bump it up to 10.2. We can't blame it on Bush, and you can't blame it on Barack Obama. He ain't even in office yet. Bush is leaving. You can't really blame him. What did they do? That's exactly what they did. Then Barack steps in. Let's go up another trillion. A year later, let's go up another trillion. And then at one point, it was like a month later, let's go up another trillion. Long story short, we're at 19 plus trillion now. And as I mentioned, with the conversation I had with this Indian dude named Joe, just like me, at the bank, a couple weeks back, I said, 1780, approximately, to 1980, 200 years. The beginning of our country, the United States of America, we got a constitution, we are now officially a country. 200 years took us that long to get $1 trillion in debt. 200 years! That's no tiny amount of time. It only took 20 more years to rack up 3 or 6 trillion. It then took Bush 4 years and then 4 more years, so 8 years, to take that and turn it into 9 trillion. So as I said, time scale, $1 trillion, 3 trillion, and then 6 trillion, 9 trillion, 19 trillion, right? So what do we see happening? The timeline is shortening, and not just shortening, but drastically shortening. And what's helping this process? Well, the bailout of banks. $900 billion TARP fund, $3-5 trillion balance sheet on the Federal Reserve. I remember Bernanke talked about these. Here's when he had this plan for Congress, and here's what my forecast is, and yeah, our balance sheet will increase here, but then after, this year, it'll start coming down. This is what we forecast it'll look like, and then by the year 2015, I think he said, or it'll look like this, and it's back down to normal. And then they said, well, by the way, here's the reality. And then I saw the chart. Well, okay, so that was his forecast. What does it look like? Whoop, complete opposite. It's worse than terrible. So what happens? I'm leaving office. No, I don't want to be the Federal Reserve Chair anymore. Let's put a female, Janet Yellen, in there, who then has a nervous breakdown on stage at one point, as you guys remember. Slurring her speech, staring at the page, can't move, can't talk, just looking like a zombie, like she just read something, like someone left a sticky note from the meeting she had or something. Dear Miss Yellen, you will be in charge during the biggest financial collapse the world has ever seen, and especially America. The American dream, the American lifestyle will never be the same when this goes down. Sincerely yours, the club. And she just slurred her speech and just stood there, zombied. Remember that? Just, That's what I call a nervous breakdown. Or a stroke. So, now she's had her private meeting on Monday. Her second private meeting, which actually I read yesterday, it wasn't just a private meeting one time. It was a 3-part private meeting with the Federal Reserve, member banks and whatnot, the 12 banks. And then, of course, we had the White House meeting. All closed doors. Don't know what they said. Oh, it's just about interest rate stuff. No. You don't have little old meetings, private meetings, 3 in a row with the Federal Reserve and then one with Barack. Because of a little interest rate. What are we going to raise the rates? Are we going to take it back down? No. Absolutely not. There are bigger problems happening right now. The derivatives in the background are absolutely exploding. I'm sure of it. And I think I sent it to myself, and maybe the next video I do. But someone makes a very, very, very good case in point that the Fed is now involved in keeping Deutsche Bank afloat via its, well, I'm not sure what method it's using. Maybe it is the one buying these rotten derivatives. Because Deutsche Bank had 75 trillion at one point, and I think half of them have been dealt with somehow. How do you deal with half, 37 and whatever, $500 billion, and nothing happens in the financial world? Like, it just disappears. It doesn't disappear. Someone had to have gotten that. So I got to see if that's next. But anyways, point of this video is, this is not a democracy. This is absolutely a banana republic. This is a tyranny. 2-party tyranny. As you've seen, Bernie Sanders just got screwed. Delegates go to Hillary. Super delegates have already committed. We don't need to see nothing. We don't need to know nothing. We are already choosing Hillary. Donald Trump, Colorado, doesn't even matter. The people here don't even have a voice. We're already selecting Ted Cruz. Don't even have to show up, don't have to vote, don't have to hear nothing. That's it. Does this sound like a democracy to you? Can you see now why from time to time I do that video about the cycles of government? Just look it up. JSNIP 4, the cycles of government. Talks about the ancient Greek philosophers and how they knew all about the cycles of government, and they even laid out the order in which they go in a cycle. And one of them even commented that democracy, what was the word they used? There were cycles, and then within those cycles, there were a couple of like degenerate types of government. And democracy was one of the degenerate types of government. Imagine that. And what follows democracy, if I can remember correctly, is anarchy. That's what the cycle said. Anarchy. Can you see now why anarchy might follow? Goldman Sachs, just pay a fine. Have you ever heard of a bank robber? Any bank robbery in the history of the world, as far back as there is history, that was to the tune of 2 or 3 billion. I'll give you a small number. $2 or $3 billion bank heist? Answer, hell no, not even close. Okay? Since that's the case, have any of these big banks fraudulently gained $2 or $3 billion? Pfft, they've got that going on as I'm speaking. Okay? They're raping and pillaging that right now as I'm doing this video. That's how small a number that is to them. And what do they get hit with? A little fine. Can you see why revolutions start? Anarchy comes. It's not because people lose it and I'm just a bad person, I've had enough, and I want to go do something rotten. No, it's because there's some other bad people doing some rotten stuff who have taken over your government in its entirety and are using it to enrich themselves, give each other free immunity, just pay a little fine, because we can't just let you walk completely free. We don't want a revolution to start, so just pay a fine. You got caught with the top secret email, and nah, don't worry about it, we're going to put that on hold. After all, you might be the next president. And if you're the next president, you've got all this dirt on you. Can't have that. You'll never find yourself guilty. You'll just pardon. You could pardon yourself. I mean, it's a banana republic. Just pardon yourself. And she might just come out and say, well, listen, since I've already been selected, I'm going to be the next president. I'm going to hereby pardon myself. I mean, come on, guys. Like she said when asked about that, are you going to continue running if any charges come of this? There will not be any charges. She said it like you are a moron. There won't be any charges. And I've said it from the beginning, especially here at work. I'm talking to a buddy of mine. Yeah, but the FBI, they've opened up and now they've got... Frank, there will be no charges filed whatsoever against Hillary. She's part of the club. You know she's part of the club. You know she's been selected. She's on the cover of the magazine, The Economist. They're telling you who's next. Yeah, I know. Nothing will come of this. Remember the Benghazi hearings and Trey Gowdy? You were all excited about that. He was reaming them, man. Remember that? Yeah. You saw what happened. Just what I said would happen, right? Yeah, you're right. Nothing came of it. Trey Gowdy's going to get him. Bulldog. Nobody's looking. Okay, back to normal. Yep. Hey, guys, did I do a good job? Did I really ream you out? Pro wrestling. High five. Good job, buddy. We were enemies, but now that the cameras are off and we're behind the scenes here, did I bark at you? I didn't yell at you too bad. Well, yeah, you were pretty rough, but you did a good job. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, had to let the American sheep really believe in it. Like something's gonna come of this. Nothing came of it. Just like nothing will come of these bankers walking away with trillions, ultimately trillions, with little pay a fine. Oh, you were laundering billions of dollars? Drug cartel money? Yep. HSBC? Yep. And some other banks? Yep, and yep. Pay a fine. But we made billions and billions on the laundering money, much less the mortgage stuff we rigged and fraudulently dealt with. You guys, you're members of the club. Have you forgotten you're members of the club? Pay the fine. Get out of jail free card. Have a nice day. Can you see why revolutions start? Not because people want them. People have just, I want to be in power all of a sudden. And no. The average person just wants to live. Go to work, pay my bills, live a normal American lifestyle, even modest. Where I don't have to be a big shot, just want to do my thing, live a happy life. Don't need much, but you can't, because those in power want enormous more amounts of power, wealth, and the only way for them to continue getting that is to keep sucking and draining you dry until you can't take it anymore. And you said, I've had enough. I'd never vote because I don't like it, but now I'm going to vote. Damn it, I've had enough. And then you vote. That's funny. It doesn't appear that my vote counted. That's funny. I kept pressing this man's name, and it keeps going to this other person. Damn it, press it again. Let me try it different. Maybe my finger's too fat. Let me try my pinky, and it's pushing this person's name above me. How many times has that happened? Not only that, even if it works right, it's a freaking machine programmed by somebody you don't know. designed to function a certain way you don't know, such as let the person pick whoever the hell they want, print a physical receipt showing them that the person you selected has been counted. Have a nice day. Thank you for choosing such and such for your voting machine. Have a nice day, sir or ma'am. Oh, hold my little paper? All right. Yes, my vote counts. And then when it's time to tally at the end of the day, the machine's programming says, we're giving this to this person, 5149. My guy was that close. Well, if it was that close, there's definitely a lot of people feeling the same way I do. Maybe we'll get them next time. Can you see why revolutions and anarchy starts? Take care.